I've been the personal bodyguard for the daughter of New York's richest man for 10 solid years. In that decade, I've taken bullets for her, gotten stabbed, handled a kidnapping, and cleaned up her messes with trust fund brats. If she mentioned wanting pastries from the Carlisle at midnight, I'd drive 20 miles through a downpour to get them. If she had a fever, I'd stay up all night, letting her use me as a human pillow. Everyone said I was the Vanderbilt family's most loyal dog, and even the heiress, Chloe, believed it. But on my 30th birthday, staring at the work-related scars in the mirror, I was suddenly sick of it all. I wanted to get married. I wanted a home of my own. I secretly signed up for a dating site. On the day we met, the woman was gentle and shy. "I hear you work for the Vanderbilt heiress," she said. "That's so impressive." For once, I felt relaxed and managed to smile. "You think so? I'm actually planning to quit." The next second, the restaurant's glass door was kicked open. Chloe Vanderbilt stood there, flanked by 8 bodyguards in black suits, murder in her eyes. Her eyes were bloodshot as she flipped our table, grabbed my tie, her voice trembling violently. "Who gave you permission to quit? Who gave you permission to go on a date? I've owned you for 10 years. How dare you throw me away for someone else? My name is Ethan, and I'm Chloe Vanderbilt's personal bodyguard. Today is my 30th birthday. I just dealt with 2 drunk trust fund kids trying to harass her and was back in the security lounge when my phone lit up with a direct deposit notification. A moment later, an iMessage came through from Chloe's assistant. "Ethan, Chloe says thanks for your hard work tonight. The bonus has been wired. Make sure you got it." I stared at the string of zeros on the screen and felt nothing. It was all meaningless. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Chloe herself. I answered. "Ethan, are those 2 morons dealt with?" "They're dealt with." Such a buzzkill. They completely ruined my beauty sleep. "This afternoon, you're coming with me to the Bulgari launch." I hesitated for a few seconds. "Hello?" she snapped impatiently from the other end. "Are you deaf?" "Miss Vanderbilt," I said, my voice a little hoarse. "Today is my birthday. Could I possibly take the afternoon off? I wanted to visit my parents' graves." She paused, then scoffed. "Ethan, are you serious? They've been dead for years. What's the point? Be in the garage at 3 o'clock sharp. Be late, and I'll dock your bonus." The line went dead. I held the phone, listening to the dial tone, before slowly lowering my hand. The man in the mirror was 30. A nasty scar ran from the corner of his right eye to his temple, a gift from 3 years ago when I shielded Chloe from a shattered glass bottle. She had screamed then, not for me, but for the 2 drops of my blood that had spattered her hem. "Ethan, you're disgusting. This dress is haute couture. Your salary for 3 months couldn't even cover it." Later, she had her assistant wire me $50,000, as if my permanent scar and her dress both had a price tag. In the morning, I spent 2 hours at the cemetery. I brought a bouquet of white lilies for my parents. They were smiling gently in the photograph on the headstone. If they were still alive, they'd be nagging me to get married, have kids, and live a quiet, normal life. That afternoon, the Bulgari launch was a sea of celebrities, and Chloe was a social butterfly, flitting from one group to another. I shadowed her every move, my eyes scanning every person who got near. Some B-list actor tried to chat her up, and I blocked him with my arm. The actor glared at me. "Who the hell are you?" Chloe turned and giggled. "Oh, that's just my family's dog. He's very protective. Don't mind him." A few people nearby chuckled. I stood there, my face a mask, as the chatter from the other guards came through my earpiece. "Hear that, Ethan? The heiress called you a dog again. You'll get used to it." At 11 p.m., I was finally driving a drunk Chloe back to the mansion. She was sprawled in the back seat when she suddenly kicked the back of my chair. "Ethan, I'm thirsty. I want tea from that lodge upstate, the one brewed with spring water." I glanced at the clock. "Miss Vanderbilt, that lodge is in the Catskills. It's a 2-hour round trip, and they close at 1 a.m. "I don't care," she yelled, completely unreasonable. "Go now or you're fired." I silently turned the car around. When I got to the lodge, it was, of course, closed. I had to beg the night manager for half an hour before he sold me the last pot of tea. I kept it warm in a thermos all the way back to the mansion, only to find Chloe fast asleep. I stood outside her bedroom door with the thermos of tea, and finally, I just set it down gently on the carpet. The next day was my day off. I secretly went to a coffee shop for the date the website had arranged. Her name was Sarah. She was an elementary school teacher, with a kind, gentle face and a soft voice. "So, what do you do for a living, Mr. Kane?" she asked. I hesitated. "I'm a private security consultant." She nodded. "That sounds intense. Are you busy most of the time?" "Pretty much," I admitted. "I'm always on call." She was understanding. "It's not easy to make a living. I teach the senior class, so I'm always working late myself. We actually hit it off. When she heard my parents were gone, her eyes filled with sympathy. Well, if you ever want a home-cooked meal, you can always call me. I make a pretty good pot roast. Looking at her warm smile, I felt a frozen part of me begin to thaw. We agreed to meet again next week, and for the first time in a long time I felt light. The feeling lasted until I stepped out of the cafe and my phone buzzed frantically. It was Chloe, screaming into the phone. "Where the hell are you? Get your ass to Fifth Avenue right now. If you're not here in 10 minutes, you're fired." I gritted my teeth and hailed a cab. On the luxury goods floor of the department store, Chloe was screaming at a sales clerk. "What kind of pathetic store is this? How could you sell the bag I wanted to someone else? Do you have any idea who I am? I will have this entire place shut down." The clerk looked like she was about to cry. "Miss Vanderbilt." This woman had already reserved the bag. A well-dressed, timid woman stood nearby, clearly terrified. I hurried over. "Miss Vanderbilt, what's going on?" The moment Chloe saw me, she grabbed my sleeve. "Ethan, she took my bag. Get it back for me." The other woman whispered, "But I reserved it a month ago." Chloe raised her hand to slap her, but I caught her wrist. "Miss Vanderbilt, we're in public. Think of your reputation." She shot me a venomous look. "Whose side are you on? I'd have been better off getting a dog. At least a dog knows who feeds it." The store manager finally came out and mediated, promising to source another bag for Chloe. Only then did she relent, storming off and dragging me by the arm. She was stone-faced the entire car ride. Suddenly, she snatched my phone. "Let's see what was so important on your day off." She unlocked it before I could react. My heart sank. She saw my iMessage conversation with Sarah and the meeting reminder from the dating site. The air in the car turned to ice. Chloe held up my phone, her voice dripping with venom. "You went on a date?" I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles were white. "Miss Vanderbilt, I'm 30. It's normal to want a family." She let out a cold laugh. "A family? What right do you have to a family? You belong to me. Without the Vanderbilts paying your bills, what are you?" I took a deep breath. "Miss Vanderbilt, I am your employee. When my contract is up, I intend to resign." She stared at me, her eyes burning. "Resign? Date? Ethan, you're dreaming. You owe me a debt you can never repay. You're not going anywhere without my permission." After that, I was effectively imprisoned. The basement had no windows, making it impossible to tell day from night, with only a single dim bulb overhead. I lost track of the days. Someone brought food, always cold leftovers. On the third night, the door opened and Chloe stumbled in, drunk. She kicked my leg. "Hey, have you learned your lesson?" I didn't move from my spot on the floor. "I did nothing wrong, Miss Vanderbilt. I just want to get married." She exploded like a cornered animal. "With that schoolteacher? I sent people to her school yesterday. If she ever sees you again, she can kiss her job goodbye." I shot up my head. "Come after me. Leave her out of this." Her eyes instantly welled with tears, her voice a mix of hurt and fury. "You're yelling at me for her? I've owned you for 10 years. Are 10 years worth less than some woman you just met?" She threw herself at me, hitting my chest. "I'll show you. You want to get married? You belong to me." I let her vent until she was exhausted. Then I spoke, my voice raw. "Miss Vanderbilt, I've taken 3 knives for you and saved you from 7 other disasters. Every bonus you've given me, I've saved it all. Is that enough to pay back the life I owe you?" She froze, staring at me as if for the first time. After a long silence, she laughed, a broken sound. She leaned in close, her breath smelling of whiskey. "Ethan, let me tell you something. It will never be enough. You'll owe me into the next life." She stood up, looking down at me with cold eyes. "Public school teacher in Queens. Parents live in an old apartment complex on the west side, right? You can either go back to being my loyal dog, or you can watch her entire family get ruined because of you." She turned and left, the lock clicking shut behind her. I sat in the dark, the scratches on my neck burning, but it was nothing compared to the cold despair that filled me. On the 4th morning, the door opened again. It was Chloe's assistant, Ms. Davis, holding a tray with a full breakfast and a first aid kit. "Ethan, you should eat something. Miss Vanderbilt wants you to get cleaned up. You're accompanying her to the stables this afternoon." I looked up. "She's letting me out?" Ms. Davis avoided my gaze. "She said to give you time to think. As long as you apologize and promise to never mention dating or marriage again, she'll act like none of this happened. You'll still be the head of Vanderbilt Security. She's even offering to double your salary." I stared at her. "And if I refuse?" She lowered her voice. "Ethan, why make it harder? You know her temper. She really did send someone to Sarah's school yesterday. They didn't do anything, but it was a clear warning. You can't fight her on this. Just give in. You've been with her for 10 years. I closed my eyes. 10 years. For 10 years, I had orbited her like a loyal moon, completely forgetting that I was supposed to have my own life. That afternoon, I showered, put on a clean suit, and transformed back into the impeccable head of Vanderbilt security. When Chloe saw me, a satisfied smile spread across her face. So you've come to your senses? I opened the car door for her without a word. After you, Miss Vanderbilt. She hummed as she got in, clearly pleased. I knew you couldn't leave me. Tonight, you're coming to a charity gala. There's an auction. See something you like, and I'll buy it for you. Consider it compensation for the past few days. Her tone was uncharacteristically gentle. I just kept my head down. The sun was bright at the stables. Chloe rode her thoroughbred for a few laps, dismounting with flushed cheeks. She tossed the reins to me. Walk him for a bit. He seems jumpy today, so be careful. The horse was definitely agitated, snorting and stamping its hooves. I walked it around the paddock twice and was about to hand it to a stable hand when a car backfired loudly in the distance. The horse reared, tearing the reins from my hand and bolting straight for Chloe. It was about to trample her. On pure instinct, I dove and shoved her out of the way. A heavy hoof slammed into my chest. I heard the sickening crack of my own ribs, and then an all-consuming wave of pain. As I was thrown through the air, the last thing I saw was Chloe's horrified face, her hand reaching for me. Before I blacked out, I felt someone cradle my head. Something warm and wet dripped onto my face. I heard her screaming, her voice cracking with tears. Ethan, don't you die. I forbid you to die. Do you hear me? If you die, I'll make that Sarah and her entire family pay. Then, nothing. I woke up in a VIP hospital room. My chest was wrapped so tightly in bandages that every breath was agony, making me break out in a cold sweat. Chloe was sitting in a chair by the bed, her eyes red and swollen. Are you completely useless? She said. You can't even handle one horse. I almost got trampled. I struggled to speak, my throat on fire. Are you okay, Miss Vanderbilt? She snorted. What would be wrong with me? You, on the other hand, have 3 broken ribs. The doctor said you'll be in bed for at least 3 months. She poked my forehead. You did this on purpose, didn't you, Ethan? Trying to pull some sympathy card to make me feel sorry for you. I closed my eyes, not bothering to argue. The doctor said another half hour and you would have been dead. The hoof missed your heart by less than an inch. You're lucky. I stared at the ceiling. Yeah, lucky. After 10 years of taking hits for you, I guess even the Grim Reaper feels sorry for me. Her face went rigid, as if my words had struck a nerve. She shot to her feet. Who is that sarcasm for, Ethan? Isn't saving me your job? She stormed out, slamming the door behind her. I listened to the click of her heels fade down the hall and slowly exhaled. She had smashed my phone, so I had no way of knowing how Sarah was. Chloe came back that night, drunk again. She stumbled to my bedside and grabbed my arm. Ethan, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. I was just scared. Her voice was thick with tears. When you pushed me today, it was just like that time in the alley 10 years ago. But this time you were just lying there. You wouldn't wake up no matter how much I screamed. I thought you were dead. I just watched her, silent. It was the first apology I'd heard from her in 10 years, and I felt absolutely nothing. You're drunk, Miss Vanderbilt. She shook her head frantically. I'm not. Ethan, please don't quit. Don't go on dates. I'll stop being angry all the time. I'll give you a raise. I'll give you anything you want. She clung to me, making desperate promises. I gently pulled my arm free. I'm tired, Miss Vanderbilt. 10 years is a long time. Please, just let me go. Her crying stopped instantly. She looked up, her eyes blazing. You want to leave that badly? For that schoolteacher? What does she have? With me, you could have anything. I looked her straight in the eye and said, word by word, she can give me dignity. Chloe looked like I'd slapped her. Her face went pale. Are you saying I don't give you dignity? Ethan, be honest. Have I ever treated you badly? You go to the best places, wear designer clothes, drive luxury cars. I cut her off. But I'm still just a bodyguard. I'm still the family dog, in your own words. She shot to her feet. You want dignity? Fine. Without the Vanderbilts, you're nothing. Do you think that Sarah would still want you if she knew you were just a veteran with a high school diploma? What's she after? Your scarred face? Or the blood money you earn? She slammed the door and was gone. I was in the hospital for 2 weeks. Chloe didn't visit, but her assistant brought expensive supplements every day. By the 3rd week, I could walk. When the nurse wasn't looking, I slipped out and found a pay phone to call Sarah. Hello. Her voice sounded exhausted. Sarah, it's me, Ethan. The line was silent for a moment. Then her voice came back, cold and distant. Mr. Kane, is there something I can help you with? I'm sorry I disappeared, I said. I was injured. She cut me off. I know. Your employer told me. Chloe talked to you? Did she threaten you? Sarah let out a bitter laugh. Mr. Kane, we shouldn't see each other again. I'm just a regular person who wants a quiet life. I can't afford to get mixed up in your world. The line went dead. I stood there holding the receiver for a long time. On the way back to the hospital, I stopped and bought a new phone and a new SIM card. The moment I turned it on, it was flooded with dozens of texts, all from Chloe. How dare you sneak out of the hospital? Get back here right now. I swear I'll cut off your medical payments. The last one had come in 10 minutes ago. You left to see her. You have a death wish. I deleted every single message and blocked her number. When I got back to my room, Chloe was sitting on the edge of my bed, her face so dark she looked ready to commit murder. Where were you? I ignored her and got back into bed. She lunged forward and grabbed the collar of my hospital gown. I asked you a question. Did you go see Sarah? Are you really willing to die for some woman? This is my personal time, I said calmly. I don't need to report my movements to you. She was shaking with rage. Fine. Ethan, you think you're so tough now? Don't forget you're still under contract. I can sue you for everything you have. I closed my eyes. Do whatever you want. She proceeded to destroy everything in the room she could get her hands on. Finally, she pointed a shaking finger at me. You just wait. I'm going to have that Sarah run out of New York. My eyes flew open. Chloe, you touch one hair on her head, and I swear. She gave a cold, cruel smile. With one phone call, I can have her entire family on their knees, begging. I sat up, ignoring the pain in my chest, and stared her down. And do you believe that before you can do that, I can ruin you? You know exactly how many of your dirty secrets I've buried over the last 10 years. Her eyes widened in disbelief. Ethan, are you threatening me? For her, even a cornered animal will fight back, Miss Vanderbilt. I may have been your dog for 10 years, but that doesn't mean I've forgotten how to bite. Her face went white. She backed away. You're insane. I'll tell my father. He'll make sure you can never work in this city again. I actually smiled. Please do. I'm sure Mr. Vanderbilt would love to hear what his precious daughter has been up to, like the DUI 3 years ago that I took the fall for, or the fake painting you swapped at last year's charity auction. She was speechless, staring at me like I was a stranger. Then she turned and fled, slamming the door. The day I was discharged, Chloe wasn't there. Ms. Davis handled the paperwork and handed me a new phone. From Miss Vanderbilt. She said to take as much time as you need to recover. Your leave is indefinite, and your salary will continue. She said to call her when you've had time to think. I didn't take it. Thank her for the offer, but it's not necessary. I'll wire the money for breaking my contract, and my resignation letter will be in her inbox shortly. Ms. Davis looked shocked. Ethan, are you serious? She cried all night after that day at the hospital. She really does care about you. I cut her off. Ms. Davis, you've been with her for 5 years. How many times has she thrown something at you? She fell silent. I patted her shoulder. Find a way out. Don't waste 10 years like I did. I rented a small apartment in a different borough, far from the Vanderbilt mansion. It was simple, but it got good sunlight. I thought about Sarah sometimes, but I didn't call. Chloe was right. All I had to offer was a collection of scars and a bank account full of blood money. 2 weeks of peace went by. One night, I was taking out the trash and saw a familiar black Maybach parked at the curb. The window rolled down, and there was Chloe. She looked thinner, her eyes puffy. Get in. I didn't move. Is there something you need, Miss Vanderbilt? My father wants to see you. I frowned. What for? You'll find out when we get there. Don't worry, it's not what you think. I hesitated, then got in. As we neared the mansion, she spoke quietly. Ethan, if I told you I could change, would you believe me? I said nothing. She gave a bitter laugh. I knew you wouldn't, but I'm serious. I've done a lot of thinking these past couple of weeks. I know I was wrong. The car pulled up to the mansion. The butler was waiting at the door, his expression grim. Miss Vanderbilt, sir is waiting for you and Mr. Kane in the study. Chloe took a deep breath. Let's go. Whatever my father says, don't argue with him. Let me handle it. In Mr. Vanderbilt's study, he sat behind a massive mahogany desk, reviewing a file. He looked up as we entered. Just say what you need to say, sir. He put the file down and studied me. I hear you're resigning. Is it because of something Chloe did? I glanced at Chloe, who was wringing her hands nervously. It's for personal reasons. I'm looking for a change. Mr. Vanderbilt smiled faintly. No need to be so formal. I've seen what you've done for Chloe over the past 10 years. If it wasn't for you, She would have been killed during that kidnapping last year. Our family owes you her life." He opened a drawer, took out a check, and slid it across the desk. $30 million. If it's not enough, name your price. I was stunned. What is this? Your compensation. Take the money and leave New York. Chloe shot to her feet. Dad, that's not what you promised. Mr. Vanderbilt's face hardened. Be quiet. Have you not caused enough of a scene? Losing your mind over a bodyguard. You've disgraced this family. He turned back to me, his voice softening slightly. Ethan, you're a good man, but you and Chloe can never be together. Just take the money and go. I looked at the check and almost laughed. You think this is about money? Mr. Vanderbilt raised an eyebrow. What else could it be? Surely you're not in love with my daughter. Chloe's eyes lit up, and she looked at me, full of hope. I shook my head. No. The light in Chloe's eyes died, and her face went pale. Mr. Vanderbilt narrowed his eyes. Then you have all the more reason to take the money. You sold us 10 years of your life. We can't have you walk away with nothing. I picked up the check and tore it in two. That won't be necessary. I'll pay the penalty for breaking my contract. Goodbye. I turned to leave. Chloe ran and grabbed my arm. Ethan, don't go. It doesn't matter what my dad says. I'll go with you. Restrain her. Mr. Vanderbilt roared. Guards rushed in from the hall and held Chloe back. She fought against them, screaming, "Let me go! Ethan, if you walk out that door, I'll never forgive you." I walked out of the mansion without looking back. My phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. You're cruel, Ethan, but I'm not letting you go. I'll find you no matter where you run. It was Chloe. I deleted it. It buzzed again. This time, the caller ID said Sarah. I hesitated, then answered, but it was Chloe's voice. Ethan, why don't you want me? How am I not better than that schoolteacher? Please come back. I'll give you anything. I frowned. You're drunk, Miss Vanderbilt. Put someone else on the phone. She giggled. There's no one else here. I'm at the Velvet Rope. A lot of men are looking at me. My stomach dropped. The Velvet Rope was a notoriously sleazy club. Stay right where you are. I'll call the Vanderbilt security team to get you. No, she shrieked. Don't call them. I want you. If you don't come, I'm leaving with the next guy who asks. The line went dead. I tried calling back, but the phone was off. I paced my apartment, but I couldn't just leave her there. I called the captain of her security detail. Miss Vanderbilt is at the Velvet Rope. She might be in trouble. The captain sounded stressed. Ethan, she fired the entire team this afternoon. Maybe you could go. I pinched the bridge of my nose. Send me the address. He thanked me over and over. 10 minutes later, I was at the Velvet Rope. I found Chloe passed out in a corner booth. She was completely unconscious, slumped over the table while a few guys circled like vultures. I shoved them aside and draped my jacket over her. Chloe, wake up. Her eyes fluttered open. When she saw me, a slow grin spread across her face. Ethan, you came. I tried to lift her, but she went limp, draping herself over me. I want to go to your place. I frowned. That's not happening. She leaned close to my ear, her breath hot with alcohol. Then take me to a hotel? I took a step back. Her eyes went cold. Stop pretending to be a saint. Am I not as good as that, Sarah? I grabbed her shoulders. If you don't stop, I'm calling your father. That made her freeze. In the end, I took her back to the Vanderbilt mansion. The butler's face lit up when he saw me. Mr. Kane, you've returned. I handed Chloe over to him. Look after her. I turned to leave, but Chloe suddenly wrapped her arms around me from behind. Don't go. I was wrong, I really was. I won't treat you like that anymore. I'll give you the dignity you want. Just don't leave me. I gently pried her fingers off me, one by one. Good night, Miss Vanderbilt. She sank to the floor, tears silently rolling down her cheeks. You'll regret this, Ethan. The next day, I started my job search, but I quickly realized something was wrong. At every interview, after looking at my resume, they'd get shifty. You're overqualified for this position. Even a moving company turned me down. Look, man, the foreman said, it's not us, it's the Vanderbilts. You understand. As I turned a corner, two men in black suits blocked my path. Mr. Kane, Miss Vanderbilt would like to see you. I recognized them as new Vanderbilt security. And if I say no? One of them produced a taser. Then we'll have to insist. They took me to a private room in a tea house. Chloe was preparing tea. She pushed a cup toward me. It's a rare vintage pu'er, my father's private stock. I didn't touch it. Just say what you want to say, Miss Vanderbilt. She glanced up at me. How's the job hunt going? I gave a cold laugh. Thanks to you, I'm blacklisted across the entire city. She blew gently on her tea. Come back. I'll triple your salary. You'll get a car and apartment. You'll only be responsible for my personal security, nothing else. You want dignity? I'll give you dignity. She hesitated, I'll even apologize for everything. I was surprised, but my guard was up. What are the conditions? Stay away from Sarah, and you can never, ever quit. I stood up. Then we have nothing to discuss. She slammed her cup down, shattering it. Ethan, don't push your luck. I have never begged anyone for anything in my life. I walked to the door. Then don't start now. Let's just go our separate ways. I opened the door to find 4 bodyguards blocking the exit. Chloe's voice came from behind me. You have 2 choices today, Ethan. Sign the contract or get carried out of here. I looked back at her. Are you sure about this? You think I'd hesitate? I smiled. Let's find out. The biggest one came at me first. I sidestepped his lunge and brought my elbow down hard on the back of his neck. The other 3 moved in together. The room was too small to maneuver properly. One of them kicked me in the chest, right on my old injury, and my vision swam with black spots. But I didn't spend 10 years in this business for nothing. 5 minutes later, all 4 of them were on the floor, groaning. I wiped a trickle of blood from my lip and looked at Chloe, whose face was as white as a sheet. Do you want to continue, Miss Vanderbilt? She bit her lip, then snatched a fruit knife from the table and pressed it to her throat. Ethan, if you walk out that door today, I'll kill myself right here. My eyes widened. You're crazy. Her hand was trembling, and the tip of the blade broke the skin, a thin line of blood welling up. I am crazy. You made me crazy. What am I supposed to do if you leave? I took a slow step forward. Put the knife down. No, not until you promise to come back. She was hysterical, pressing the knife deeper. Blood ran down her neck. I lunged, wrenched the knife from her hand, and threw it away. She crumpled to the floor, weeping. Ethan, she sobbed. I looked at the cut on her neck and sighed, my anger draining away. Where's the first aid kit? She pointed to a cabinet. I brought it over, knelt, and began to clean the wound. She tilted her head back to look at me, tears dripping onto my hand. You used to blow on my scrapes, she whispered. You'd say it made them stop hurting. My hands stilled for a second. That was a long time ago. She grabbed the hem of my jacket. If I said I've really changed, you wouldn't believe me, would you? I didn't answer. I finished taping the gauze in place, then stood up. Don't do stupid things like this again. I'm leaving. She didn't try to stop me, but just as I opened the door, she said quietly, Ethan, that woman Sarah, she's getting married. I spun around. What? A sad, triumphant smile touched her lips. Her parents took $50,000 to marry her off to some newly rich developer. They're going to City Hall this afternoon. I stormed back in and grabbed her by the shoulders. What did you do? She didn't resist. I didn't do a thing. I just helped her see the reality of the world. Money and power rule everything, Ethan. You can't protect her. I shoved her away and ran, dialing Sarah's number over and over, but her phone was off. I called the school. One of her colleagues hemmed and hawed before saying, Sarah took a personal day. For a wedding, I think. I sprinted towards City Hall. I got there just in time to see Sarah getting out of a car, her face pale. Beside her was a short, fat man. I ran over and shoved him aside. Sarah's eyes filled with tears the moment she saw me. Ethan, what are you doing here? The fat man started yelling. Who the hell are you, touching my wife? I kept my eyes on Sarah. You told me you wanted a quiet, stable life. Is this it? Tears streamed down her face. My mother took the money. My father's in the hospital, he needs an operation. I'm so sorry. The man grabbed her arm. Stop talking to this loser and let's go get this over with. I grabbed his wrist. She doesn't want to do this. Can't you see that? He sneered. We already paid her family 50 grand. She doesn't get a choice. Now back off before. I didn't let him finish. I just hit him. Ethan, Sarah cried, grabbing my arm. I took her hand. Come with me. I'll pay the money back. I'll pay for your father's surgery. She stared at me, stunned. How? Where would you get that kind of money? I wiped a tear from her cheek. 10 years of selling my life. Is it enough to buy your freedom? Behind us, the man screamed, Sarah, you walk away and I'll ruin your entire family in this city. I turned and gave him a cold stare. You touch her family, and I'll hand over evidence of the Vanderbilt Corporation's tax evasion to the IRS. Let's see who gets ruined first. He immediately went silent. I led Sarah away and we took a cab back to my apartment. She was quiet the whole ride. As we stood outside my building, she finally asked, Why are you doing this for me? Because you said you make a good pot roast, I replied, and I'd like to try it someday. She smiled through her tears, then looked worried again. But the Vanderbilts, First things first, I'm wiring you the $50,000 now. Go give it back. She shook her head. I can't take your money. I had already completed the transfer on my phone. Just consider it a loan. You can pay me back with interest. She looked at me for a long moment, then stepped forward and hugged me. I gently patted her on the back. After she left, I stood on my balcony and saw a black Mercedes parked in the shadows across the street. Sure enough, my phone rang. It was Chloe, her voice like ice. Playing the hero, was it fun? I gripped the railing. What is it you want from me? She laughed softly. What do I want? I gave you your chance, Ethan. Now, I want you to come crawling back to me on your knees. The next day, the war began. My bank accounts were frozen. My landlord served me an eviction notice. My power and water were shut off. I went to the bank, where a sympathetic teller told me, Mr. Kane, your account has been flagged in a money laundering investigation. It's frozen indefinitely. I knew it was the Vanderbilts. I didn't argue. I just withdrew the cash I had stashed away. Suddenly, I felt exhausted. For 10 years, my entire world had been controlled by them, like I was living in my own Truman Show. My phone rang. An unknown number. It was Mr. Vanderbilt. Ethan, I've spoiled Chloe, I know that. But you need to understand that you cannot win a war against my family. Go back to her and this all goes away. He paused. If you truly have feelings for her, I would consider allowing it. She is my only child. The company will one day belong to her and her husband. I laughed. And you think that's why I protected her for 10 years? He was quiet for a moment. There's no shame in ambition, son. Chloe can give you a life that schoolteacher can't even dream of. I looked out my window at the Vanderbilt Tower dominating the skyline. She can give me many things, but not the one thing I want most. And what is that? My freedom. After a long silence, he spoke one last time. You will regret this. After that call, I decided to leave New York. But when I tried to buy a bus ticket, the clerk looked at me strangely. Sir, the system says you're on a no-travel list. I stood there and took a deep breath. They were going to suffocate me. I walked out of the bus station, and the black Mercedes was there, waiting. The window rolled down. It was Chloe. Get in. I got in the car. What will it take for you to just let me go? Her eyes were terribly swollen. 3 days, she said. Just give me 3 days. After that, I promise I'll let you go. I'll leave you alone for good. I frowned. And why should I believe you? She produced a legally notarized document. It's all in here. 3 days. After which, you are free, and I will transfer $3 million to your account as compensation. I read it. It seemed legitimate. Why 3 days? She looked out the window. It's my birthday soon. You were there for the last 10. Just be there for the last one. I thought for a moment. Fine, but on 3 conditions. No physical contact. You don't force me to do anything I don't want to. And you leave Sarah alone. A corner of her mouth twitched up. Deal. The first day, she took me to Coney Island. We stood in line for rides like a normal couple. On the Cyclone, she screamed her head off and gripped my hand so tight I thought she'd break it. She was sick afterwards. I handed her a bottle of water. Why put yourself through that? I asked. She wiped her mouth and smiled. I always wanted to come here. My father never allowed it. Said it was too dangerous. We got ice cream, and she managed to get it all over her face. Without thinking, I took a napkin and wiped her chin. She froze, staring at me, her eyes suddenly red. I pulled my hand back. She looked down and finished her ice cream in silence. That afternoon, on the Wonder Wheel, as we reached the very top, she spoke. I know I'm awful, she said quietly. I have a terrible temper. I'm completely unreasonable. But when you said you were leaving, I realized, her voice broke. I realized you're all I have. My parents are always working. My friends just want my money. You're the only one who's there to clean up my messes, to wait outside my door when I have nightmares, to stay with me all night when I'm sick. I stared out at the New York skyline. That was my job. She shook her head. No, it wasn't. When you took that knife for me during the kidnapping last year, I knew. No one else in this world would ever do that for me. As the wheel began its descent, she asked in a small voice, if it weren't for Sarah, could you have liked me? Even a little? I didn't answer until our feet were back on solid ground. Life doesn't have what-ifs. The second day, she wanted me to teach her self-defense. We were in the mansion's gym, and as I was showing her a move, she suddenly wrapped her arms around me from behind. Is this how you take down the bad guy? I went rigid. Let go, Miss Vanderbilt. It's almost over, she pleaded. Just for a second. I pried her fingers off me and turned to face her. We had an agreement. Do you really hate me that much? She cried. If I'd had a dog for 10 years, at least it would be happy to see me. I looked at her calmly. There it is. In your mind, that's all I've ever been to you. A dog. That's not what I meant. We're done for today, I said, grabbing a towel. She grabbed my arm. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. I pulled my arm free. Tomorrow is the last day. I expect you to honor our agreement. On the third day, she wanted to watch the sunset at the beach. When I got there, she was standing on the jetty, wearing a simple dress. She turned and smiled at me. I used to ask you to bring me here, but you always said it was too dangerous. It's beautiful. I stood beside her. The air grew cold as the sun disappeared. She tilted her head. In all these 10 years, was there ever a single moment you saw me as a woman and not just a job? No, not even for 1 second. I was silent for a long time, until the last sliver of sun vanished below the horizon. I lost the bet, I said softly. In the car, she handed me a manila envelope. Everything from the agreement is in there. Also, she added, Sarah's father's hospital bills are paid in full, and that developer won't be bothering her family again. I was surprised. The car pulled up to my building. As I got out, she called, Wait, I forgot something. She handed me a small velvet box. A belated birthday present. I opened it. Inside was a vintage military-issue watch. Engraved on the face were the words, U.S. Army Rangers. I looked up at her, shocked. How did you know about this? She smiled a little. I know all about your service. How you secretly visit your squad leader's grave every year. How you collect old military journals. How you keep your unit's photo under your pillow. Her voice was a whisper. You're not a bodyguard, Ethan. And you're not a dog. You're a hero. A hero I was never good enough for. She got in the car and drove away. I stood on the sidewalk holding the watch. On the back, a tiny inscription read, To my hero. My phone buzzed. A new text. You're free now. Go marry her. I stood there for a long time, staring after her car. The next day, everything was back to normal. My accounts were unfrozen. My landlord called to apologize for the mix-up. Headhunters started calling with 6-figure job offers. It was like waking from a long nightmare. I went to the hospital upstate to visit Sarah's father. His surgery had been a success. Sarah sat with me in the hallway, peeling an apple. I'll pay you back, she said. I promise. I took the apple from her. There's no rush. She hesitated. That Miss Vanderbilt, she hasn't bothered you again? No. Sarah let out a breath of relief. That's good. You know, I actually feel a little sorry for her. I looked at her, surprised. Why would you say that? She came to see me, Sarah admitted. She said she was giving you back to me. She'd been crying. Her eyes were all swollen. I froze. She came to see you? A few days ago. She said she wouldn't cause any more trouble for us. She even tried to give me a credit card, called it a wedding gift. I didn't take it. I ate the apple in silence. It was sweet, with a hint of tartness, just like the strange feeling in my chest. When Sarah's father was discharged, I helped them move his things back to the city. Downstairs from her family's apartment, I saw a familiar figure. It was Chloe. She was so thin I almost didn't recognize her. She held out a gift box. A wedding present. Sarah was confused. What wedding? I've already got my gift ready. If you two don't get married, I'll be very disappointed. Chloe smiled and pressed the box into Sarah's hands. It's just some jewelry from one of my father's partners. A waste to let it sit in a vault. She turned to leave. Chloe, I said. It was the first time in 10 years I had used her first name. She turned back slowly. Her eyes were red, but she forced a smile. Come and visit sometime. The door will always be open for you. As a friend, not an employee. She walked away quickly, her steps a little unsteady. She really has changed, Sarah said softly. I didn't say anything. I just watched until she was gone, and felt a weight I'd been carrying for 10 years finally lift. 6 months later, Sarah and I had a small engagement party. Just before it started, a massive basket of flowers was delivered. Tucked inside the roses was a card. It read, To my hero, be happy. Should we invite her in? Sarah whispered. I shook my head. She won't come in. Later, during the toasts, I heard a noise out in the hall. I stepped out and saw a familiar figure disappearing into an elevator at the far end of the corridor. By the time I got downstairs, all I saw was the black Maybach pulling away from the curb. I stood there for a long time, until Sarah came out to find me. What's wrong? She asked. I took her hand. Nothing. It's just a little windy out here. Let's go back inside. I heard later that Chloe went to study abroad. She posted photos on Facebook sometimes. In every one, her smile looked a little more real. One photo had a copy of an old military journal in the background. I liked it. She replied almost instantly with a smiley face emoji. Be happy, Ethan. I put down my phone. The sun was streaming through the window. From the kitchen, I could smell Sarah's pot roast filling our apartment. After a 10-year journey, I was finally home.